Welcome to BC Procast, episode 51. We are one away from our anniversary. Anniversary. The adversity of BC Procast. We are so excited, and we would want no one else to be on the podcast right before. Then, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, my name is Andres Zapata.
Yeah.
Right? Got to get the R rolling in the Andres piece. That's who I am.
We've had his son on here. You can hold this.
Oh, okay.
We've had his son on. Sorry.
Yeah, that made me feel
I know.
just a stand.
I was like ready for you to talk, but I
okay.
realized I had to finish my sentence.
We had his son.
We've already had his son on, Emery Zapata, with Wesley, I believe.
Yeah.
And that podcast did really, really well, and you got to see a lot of the thoughts and everything. So we have his father here, who just recently moved to northern Kentucky, because they don't know where we are.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So right now we are also located in South Carolina, California.
Okay.
So we're all over the place.
Yeah, we moved.
Mobile, that's good.
Yeah. So
Okay,
he just recently moved up here.
We moved this room everywhere.
I like that.
Just
Yeah.
this room.
For a few months and all that stuff. But I mean, right off the bat, I have a question. So you have I would say you were in a company for a long, long time, and with that company, you traveled a lot. What are some places you've gone?
Some places I've gone. I've gone to China. I've gone to India. I've gone to the UK, Mexico, the Middle East, Dubai. It's my favorite. Romania. Probably a few others. I have to think about them.
That's crazy. I was just real quick before you say your thing. How many continents are you away? Have you been to Australia?
No.
So you are at 5 continents. You
Yes.
just need Australia and then Antarctica. I mean.
Yeah, Antarctica, I'll pass on that one. Australia, I used to think it would be cool to go there until I see these videos of their bugs and their spiders.
Dude, they're huge.
Yeah, so I always thought it was just koala bears and stuff like kangaroos. But no, those other things will keep me away.
Yeah, I heard all those things, like, they have, like, a bunch of insects that can, like, kill you because they're big enough.
Yeah.
That's scary.
And I also heard there's like videos of always Australians like going out in like the water.
While you're saying this.
They go out in the water. I need a little bit.
Yeah, that was a good one.
They go out in the drink and they look for some crocodiles, and they go yoink. But the cool thing about the video is usually we're like, oh, it was the video, or it had a video of people taking things out of the water at night with a flashlight.
Yeah.
Australians. And then one of the videos was POV. We're watching it like, oh my goodness, there's a crocodile. Watch out. The crocodile's like, oh my goodness, there's an Australian. Watch out. So it's like they do like the craziest things. But so you've traveled everywhere. Why is Dubai, like, out of every place that you've been to?
The best?
Yeah, why not the United States or something like that?
Yeah, so I remember when that first discussion or topic came up about having to go to Dubai, because naturally it's in the Middle East, right? And it's probably the last place I really wanted to go. So I was in fact trying to get out of going to it. And at the time they were like, no, we got to have our meeting there. I'm like, nobody's from there. We've got to go to Dubai to have a meeting. We're all from the U.S. or like Europe. And so they're like, you got to go. I'm like, okay, I'll go. But man, I tell you, it was probably the best decision. Out of all the places I've been to, Dubai, to me, was the cleanest place I've ever been. No poverty. You don't see any homeless. Because, and you can't, there's no trouble there too, because if you get in trouble there, they just kick you out. Really? Right? Because you're there typically on a work visa. Like 90% of the population is there for work, right? From their companies that are around the world. So they're really strict when it comes to bringing trouble into Dubai. But I tell you, out of all the places I've ever been, I felt the safest in Dubai. So even like at, late night dinners with colleagues and customers, and, we're walking the streets around 1, 2 in the morning, and you just feel safe. Well lit, cars are still kind of doing their thing. Everyone's friendly and kind. Really enjoyed it. So,
did you ever feel like in danger at any other places?
Yeah.
We got something.
Yeah, India. So we were in Delhi, in this very populated place, and we had a colleague.
I'm sorry. Is it like, because they say India is so overpowered, are you like always like just hitting shoulders with people? Is it like that packed? Or is that like downtown city places?
No, I mean, it was packed. And when walking, I didn't really have a lot of that issue. But traffic-wise, yeah, I mean, cars are trying to like cut each other off, and they have these, I forgot the name of it, like Pujis or something like that. But they're that little, cart.
Okay.
Like, it's like half the size of a golf cart, probably, it feels like.
Okay.
And you got a driver in the front seat, and it's only a one seat.
Yes.
And in the back seat, you can maybe fit, the three of us can sit in that back seat.
Yeah.
And it's a green and yellow kind of cart kind of thing, no windows.
Yeah.
And in this part, an example of this is I took one of my team members with me to Delhi, and I was already cognizant of what not to eat, which was nothing.
Yeah.
So I took some protein cookies with me from here, and just played it very safe. Well, everything there is spicy. Mm-hmm. So I had my team there order some lunch for the department and our colleagues and others, and to get our meetings going. They ordered pizzas, salads, whatever. Everything was spicy. The cheese pizza was spicy. The salad, I don't know what was in that. So I naturally just had like a very small piece of a cheese pizza, and then I went to my protein cookie. Well, my colleagues, they ate, and one in particular, she got really sick, like almost instantaneously. So later that night, we're all at the hotel. She's been there because she left early. So I'm texting her, like, hey, are you good? Because I think we saw a hospital down the road. We can try that and drop you off and see what happens, kind of thing, and, pick you up in the morning. So we were like, well, worst case, me and the other guys will go find some electrolytes, some vitamin water or something. And that was an experience because it had to be 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock that night. And we talked to the concierge desk, and they say, well, yeah, down the road, there's like a market. Okay. So we take one of these, I forgot the name of it, just like this little taxi thing. For her. And the rules of the road go out of the window, apparently, like at 8 o'clock. Because everybody's driving in every different direction and like cutting between lanes. Wow. And I have video of it.
Yeah.
And I probably have it on my phone somewhere. But we were sure we were going to get hit multiple times. They drop us off at this marketplace, and this place is really populated, and there's some sketchy looking people. And we're going through these little crowded hallways. But these hallways lead to little shops. Oh. Like a candy store or like a weird store, and then like you can buy drinks and other things probably that are, I don't know what they were. We finally found electrolytes, and then we have to make our way back out, and people are trying to sell us food that they're making, and we're like, no, we're good. We'll just take some videos of you and just move on. And we get back into one of these little death carts, and then get back to the hotel. But it was so populated at that time in the evening.
Yeah.
But so the whole bumping into people.
Yeah.
it was more like bumper cars. It
Oh,
just
yeah.
like I didn't really experience the whole people piece,
Yeah.
but I do know it's a very, very crowded
Yeah.
place.
Wow.
Yeah, and I know I took you off the topic, but was one of those moments that like you're a little fearful of?
Yeah, that was. I think I've had a probably again in India. So yeah, with India. So I went there for a week, and then it wasn't until I got there that they said, "Hey, on Thursday, we're closed, our office." I'm like, "Well, why did you have me come here? You guys are closed for a holiday." They're like, "Yeah, but just don't leave the hotel." I'm like, "Well, why?" They're like, "Because people get here excited about this holiday." So I go into like this restaurant.
Yeah.
And man, these people follow me in, and I'm like, "Oh man!" So it gets crazy, and like they're asking me these questions: "Why are you here?" And it's me and these guys in this bathroom. And I'm like, "All right, bro." They're like, "Who you here with?" So I'm like walking slowly out of the bathroom. They're like, "Well, wait, talk to us." I'm like, "No, I'm good, bro." So that was the only time.
Oh.
My gosh, that would have freaked me out. So just the people just followed you everywhere, or like just to that restaurant and like
In this restaurant, in this bathroom area, yeah.
Wow.
did they like touch you at all?
No.
Oh, then knew that you were gonna fight them. Oh, speaking of fighting,
Yeah.
you used to fight a lot. UFC. What were you like?
No,
25
UFC.
and 0? 25 and 0.
No, back in like high school or teenage years, I used to wrestle and like box and stuff like that. But yeah, we used to kind of get in trouble every now and then.
Well,
I remember the other night, actually, we were at a birthday party for one of the young people in our youth group, and one of my old friends showed up from my teenage years. We went to the academy together, and we were just reminiscing, laughing, and one of the things he said, man, he's like, I remember you, me, and a couple other names. We would always go to this skating place, and man, he was like, you were always wanting to fight somebody, man. I was just like, oh yeah, you know what, you're right. I mean, that was when I first started coming into church, so it was like, you know, you're trying to figure out what you can and can't do, and like you can't fight, or you can't fight for no reason, type of thing. Yeah. And he was like, man, you were always just trying to fight somebody. And I remember, you know, we were trying to like, you know, set people up or whatever, and see if we can get into a fight with this group of guys and everything. And I'm like, yeah, you know, kind of good old days kind of thing. It was like, but and they weren't the good old days, but it was funny because the way he's telling me the story and how he remembers it, man, I'm just like dying laughing because the guy's just comical, just talking to him kind of thing. But yeah, I used to get in trouble.
But sorry, before moving on from the travel thing, so you've seen a lot of different cultures, a lot of different peoples. What's something that you have learned when it comes to like people or things that stood out you from cultures? Like if you're like, oh, I really like this, or this one I didn't like, or just overall, what did you learn about the people of like this world?
Man, you know, I think people of this world, I think naturally, I think people are kind. I think regardless of the country or place I've been to, majority of people, I know we hear a lot of bad stuff about people, but people for the most part are friendly. You show them respect, they'll show you respect. You know, Dubai, India, China, they have their cultural, you know, things that they have going on. But in most of these places, they do a lot of business with North America or the U.S., right? And I think because of that, through trainings and things, like they learn on how to engage with people from our culture and vice versa. You know, if I go to India or China, you know, there's some things like, hey, when you see this, like, don't do that kind of thing. But for the most part, I tell you, people are extremely friendly, engaged. Food is hit or miss, right? So, like, I remember one time in China, we went out to some restaurant, and they brought out like a smorgasbord of food and things like that, and people were just digging in, and there was this big tray of meat. So I asked somebody I was with, I was like, "Oh, that looks good. What kind of meat is that?" And they were like, "Well, I don't know." And I'm like, oh, "Okay." So I asked the waiter, I would say, hey, what kind of meat is this? And he was like, yeah, we don't know. I'm like, okay, well, show me the bread. I'll just eat bread while I'm here, kind of thing. So I did. That right there, I was like, well, I'm good. Not that everybody around me, they were just digging in. But I would like to kind of know what I'm eating. But it was normal. So there's certain things that were normal to me, not normal to them, and vice versa. And sometimes it's kind of hit or miss. You just got to go with the flow, and you'll take a risk. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, you got to feel good about your decisions and what you're doing there. China is not a place where I would like go hang out at 1 a.m, or India for that matter, like I did in Dubai. But culturally, it's definitely different cultures, right? Dubai, if I go back to that, you see all kinds of different cultures. So I went there one time in November, and it's predominantly like a Muslim, region kind of thing. So throughout the day, like at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and 9 p.m., in the streets, you hear these speakers and these sounds, and what it is, it's like a Muslim prayer. And you and I could be eating out on a patio somewhere, and you'll hear it. One night, I was outside the Dubai Mall, that's right outside the Burj Khalifa, and like packed with people, just having a great time shopping, and you hear the Muslim prayer in the background, kind of thing. At the same time, when we're driving down the road and you see off different balconies, people's apartments or homes or whatever, you see Christmas trees. And inside the Dubai Mall, there was like a big Christmas tree and Christmas decorations. Because you have people that will come there just for shopping from like Saudi Arabia, from Lebanon, Jordan, different countries that you can just jump on a plane and get there like in a quick hour or two. Wow. So the clothing, apparel of people, they're coming from these places, and you can tell where they're from. Yeah. Right. So I thought that was kind of a cool experience as well.
The Burj Khalifa?
Yeah.
Right? That's the tallest building in the world?
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was pretty impressive because what they did every evening is different times they'll light up the building, and it'll be lit up, and it'll kind of go with music kind of thing, so loud music. Almost like those Christmas time houses get decorated, and they got the music, the lights flickering with the background music. Yeah. Like this big building was doing that, and it was pretty impressive because everybody kind of stops. And right outside the Burj Khalifa, while it's doing that, you have these restaurants and these malls and like an open seating patio bridge that goes over like those fountains like in Las Vegas where they kind of have the shooting streams and stuff like that. But being outside the Burj Khalifa was pretty impressive. I never been inside the Burj Khalifa. I think there's a fee to get up there, and then you can go up to the top of that thing, which I'm not a heights guy, so I'm good from the bottom up taking pictures and videos. But it was fun. It was fun. It was a good experience, and just being that close to the world's tallest building and seeing the music and the light shows and stuff like that, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm sorry, what was like the meetings that you were having? Like, what did you do for work that called you out to do like these meetings?
So the company that I worked for was a global company. So naturally, they have offices around the world. So in this particular case, we had an office there, and we just picked to have a meeting there about how operations is going around the globe or in that region. And I was there just kind of like, because I was part of the, I guess you can say, the leadership team, reporting to the president of particular divisions. They would just call their staff to different locations, again, UK, Dubai, wherever, and have these business planning meetings, how our sales are going, what's the customer landscape look like, what our product development portfolio looks like, how our customers are engaged. So the customer component, that was more my cup of tea, dealing with customer experience, whether it was anything post-sale fell in my realm. So I was with customer service, technical support, training customers, our field service organization, project managers, just in that kind of world is where I lived. So I would always talk about, well, if customers were complaining in that region, then I would engage to figure out like what's the problem, kind of thing. And not necessarily me myself, but my team.
Before this job and all these opportunities, were you into traveling, or was it like it's part of the job and then you started to grow for it, or?
It was part of the job. You know, when I moved to Kentucky in 2004, it was to start a contact center there. So really the travel was going to be Wisconsin to Kentucky because we had an office still in Wisconsin. So that was easy. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, because I was younger in my role, I was probably one of the younger leaders, supervisors, I guess, within our division at that given time, to the point that I was 24, and I remember talking to a sales manager, and I don't know how we got into the subject, but I was like, well, I don't know, how old do you think I am? She was like, you got to at least be 35 years old. I'm like, 24 years old. What do you mean? I look 35? And she was like, and you could tell she kind of backpedaled and like, maturity, whatever kind of, the role. I'm like, you lying? You know good and well you think I look like I'm 35 years old. So, no, but she's great. We still have a pretty good connection. But the travel piece, it wasn't until Honey, trying to stay away from the company name, but started to do more mergers and acquisitions, and teams started to come in where my role started to expand over multiple business units and locations, and then moving into global roles. So like in India, I had a contact center there. In Romania, I had a contact center there. So I started to have teams, and naturally, you can do everything virtually or a call or an email. But I felt there was always a value of connecting in person. So while I wasn't a big fan of doing all this stuff to travel, it was something that I did it because I wanted my team to know that I was willing to show up and spend some time with them and take them out to dinner, have some meetings there, take them bowling, like just hang out with them, because I wasn't very different from them. I started out doing exactly what they did, right? My first role was just answering phones, kind of thing, like anybody else in my division or department. But I had some pretty large teams around the world, and I wanted to periodically spend some time with them.
Wow.
So from what it sounds like, it seems like you have some great, and we know you, so we know that you have great leadership qualities. And even like to the point of what you were saying, you can do it virtually. You can have a virtual meeting, but you take it a step further and understand that a personal connection is what will build your team. Where have you gotten your leadership qualities from? Where have you refined them? Like, where did this all come from with becoming a leader?
Yeah, so when I first started answering the phones, and I was a technical person, I thought, like I wasn't picking up on the product stuff. So I went to a training, and they were like, and my training was like, they put me in a room. I think they forgot about me for 2 days. I mean, no lie. I sat there and waited for the trainer to come. Never showed up. Went home that night. Came back the next day, and then finally a trainer came in and said, "Hey, read this book. I'll be back in a couple hours." Never showed up. Off and on for like a couple weeks. Finally, takes me to my desk. Say, "You're good. When you're ready for a call, let them know to send you a call." All right. Every customer hated me. So I just started to work on my communication skills, and that became like a thing for me,
So you started like talking, and that was like your way of connecting with people, you're saying?
Yeah, that, and then like Parkway leadership development training workshops, how to navigate difficult communications or conversations, conflict resolution. Like literally, I started to pull from my Parkway ministry training into my work life. I'm like, man, because at the time, Pastor Tony Tamil, he would send us to like a small group workshop, leadership training kind of stuff. And like I remember one time, one of the administrators gave me a like a basket of books and like read these, and I'm like 16 years old. I'm not trying to read all these books, but there was a lot of meetings on leadership development. So it got to the point where it was like, okay, well, I didn't know the product. And I remember I got tired of customers either like hanging up on me, saying you didn't know anything. That was true. I didn't know anything. Or like I want to talk to somebody else, and like nobody else around me wanted to help me train on the products. And so I was like, you know what? Just forget. I couldn't quit.
Yeah.
Because I just got engaged. We just bought a condominium, and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like I got to make this thing work. So I focused on, okay, how to make customers not hang up on you. I like communication kind of stuff, right? And then draw from my church ministry experience. But it got to the point, and eventually I got good at the products. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there for so long.
Yeah.
But it got to be like this joke, like after a while, because customers sometimes can be ruthless. So, you know, when the team members got a customer that was like angry or upset, the joke was, I didn't think it was funny, but the joke was like, hey, send your customer to Andres, because he doesn't know the product anyways, but he'll calm them down.
Yeah.
And then he can give them back to you.
Yeah.
And then you help with the technical
Wow.
piece of it. And like that was a thing for a while, and then I was like, yeah, that's not funny anymore. So that was it. So I just ate through experience, trial and error, embracing new challenges. Like I remember one day the manager pulled me into the office, said, hey, you've been on 6 to 9 months, you know, how do you think it's going? I'm like, well, you know, training was horrible, but getting the hang of things. And he's smiling and stuff, and he was like, well, you know, where do you see yourself going, you know, within the team in the next year to 2 years or whatever? And I was like, well, man, there's like 25 of us down here, and we're in the basement, and like we all have the same title kind of thing, like tech specialist or something. Like there was no like levels and stuff. And then there was him, the manager, and I was like, well, I guess my next step is to be the manager, your role. He kind of laughed, and I didn't know why he laughed. I was like, that was my answer.
Yeah.
It was like, there's nothing else I can do. Just I'm gonna take your role.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened, but like when I left his office, I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if he was thinking like I didn't have the capability, or like that was too far out of my reach to be him, or like something. So I was like, all right. So I left his office. I'm like, I think he challenged me, kind of thing. So I just right then and then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna take his job. And then like a year later, I think it had to be. I don't know what happened to the guy still.
Yeah.
I don't know if he quit. I don't know if he got fired. But the vice president of our sales and service organization pulled us all into a conference room and said, hey, so-and-so's not here no more.
Yeah.
Then kind of talk about it. So Andres, he's going to be the acting manager.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, cool. Because I had already kind of, like, people would make fun of me because I was a tech guy. But I don't know why in my mind, like, apparel had something to do with it. So I started showing up with like dress slacks, my church clothes, man.
Yeah.
I had dress slacks on, dress shirt, a tie on, and people were like, bro, why are you wearing a tie, dude? And they're showing up in like shorts and flip-flops and whatever. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like, you know, dress for the job you want. So you show up as Batman, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, this is just how I am, kind of thing. So, but before you know it, I was doing the tech job, but then like everybody in every department started to come to me for every issue, HR issue, hiring issues, product development issues, like everything within the business as it pertained to the department. So I had it quickly like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, kind of thing. Yeah, you know, oh good. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have no idea what they're talking about. So that's where you just kind of pray, and it's just like, I got to go figure this out, because you want to look like you got it under control.
Yeah.
And I did. I started to kind of just pick it up and started doing stuff, and I did this acting manager role for like a year or two, and then they hired a manager, and I'm like, bro, why did you guys hire? I'm doing the job.
Yeah.
And then one day, that VP of sales and service, he takes me to lunch, but he made me pay. I don't understand that concept still. He was like, hey, let's go to lunch. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And then we go to Cousins. Yeah. And he was like, well, I ain't got no money. Can you pay? I'm like, dude, you're a vice president. And I'm like, okay, whatever. We sit down, and he was like, hey, we're going to start this contact center in Kentucky, and we want you to go head it up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it's cool. Let me talk to my wife about it, kind of thing, and whatever. He was like, well, we need to know like by Tuesday next week. And I'm like, well, we would like to go check it out. And they're like, great, can you go tomorrow, like this weekend, to Kentucky and get a feel for it?
Yeah.
So I tell Gina, we're like, let's go. We went, stayed 2 days, and came back, and we're like, you know, our son Emery was 1. Man, if we're gonna do it, let's just go do it now. So talked to my pastor at the time, Pastor Tony Tamil, and we went to breakfast. He paid, so I was grateful for that.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I understand. Like, go make it happen. Go do it." Kind of. He was supportive. So we went, and I'm not sure how I got on that train right there, but. Well, I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
No, that was awesome.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, how did your team react? So like, you were like the person that was the joke around, send them to this person, he doesn't know much.
Yeah.
Send to these people know their stuff, they're technical, whatever. How did it go from you seeing you as being like like the joking, send them over there, to becoming their acting manager? Like, how did they react to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, you had the group of people who said to themselves, well, you know what, Andres is a good guy, right? Like, he just himself, something about him that we can just engage with, we trust him, whatever. B, you get a group that was like, at least we have somebody to go to.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you take the manager out of the equation, it's just like, well, who do we go to? And this way, we have somebody to go to. Something goes wrong, we can point him to him. Like, we can pin things on him, like a fall guy kind of thing. And for some people who needed something, well, Andres, he'll go figure out what we need and get us. And then, you, of course, got the group that was like, bro, I've been here for like 20 years. This guy's been here for like a couple years. Why is he going to be telling me what to do and stuff like that? So you always get that kind of group of people. That's that I, you know, I could be telling him what to do. I know more than he does. I've been here longer. Who's this kid? Because I'm like, man, 21, 22 years old, leading people that have been there for like 10, 15 years, whatever, right? And they're older and established. So when you go, and this is something that I learned along the way as well, and I would coach and train people on as they kind of came as part of my leadership team as I grew my career, is that whole concept, dress for the job you want. You know, people show up as Batman or Superman kind of thing. The same holds true, attire aside, but it's a behavior thing. Behave as though you're in the role that you want. And if it's a leadership role, people assign leadership to a title. And that was a thing, and it still is a thing today at my age. Well, I'm young still, so it's not a bad thing. But like, anybody can have a title and be useless in that role. Leadership had to do more with influence and trust and relationships and things like that, right? So when you say, oh, you're all peers and now how are you the leader? I didn't want people on my leadership team eventually to have the same encounter. So long before somebody on my team became a supervisor or a team lead, I would recognize potential they had. I would recognize where they wanted to go. I would have conversations of where they saw themselves going. And if somebody said, well, I want to be more like a supervisor, a manager, a director, I'm like, okay, great. Today starts training. This is now how you need to carry yourself. This is how you should be talking to your colleagues and your peers. Allow them, not overnight, but over time, to start recognizing you as a leader. Somebody they trust, somebody they respect, somebody they can go to, somebody that can encourage them when they're down and frustrated and irritated, somebody that they see as an example. Because you want to be in a position, this is me telling them, and I've hired several managers over the years and supervisors and directors. You want to get to the point when a position becomes available to apply for, you want everybody, at least this is my mind, you want everybody to say, Braedon's going to apply for that job. He's been training for it and acting as that for the last several years.
Wow, yeah.
And that theory worked because when it came time when I was restructuring some things and I needed to create some leadership roles, it was always the two people I had expected to apply. They applied and no one else did. Because nothing's more frustrating, at least from my perspective and point of view, is you got a supervisor role or a director level role and then like 50 people think they could be you got to start doing something different where you stand out, like you're already living in that role kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wait, is it retaining that? Like
Yeah,
what you're? Yeah.
It makes me think of like oftentimes people go like, oh, what should I do? Like if they're starting a company or they like pick up hobbies or something. Like one thing you can always do is just go around to like your family and friends, be like, hey, what am I good at? Like what are some of my best qualities or traits? And like they can almost tell you like the path you should be taking.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of that because it's like I didn't even think about it that way. It's like when you have a goal and something set in mind, you're obviously working towards it. And then when the position's open, it's like having that like awareness of like everyone else is like, oh yeah, you would apply for that because that's what you've been working.
Yeah,
and
right.
It makes it very clear.
You want it to be clear, man. Things don't have to be as complicated, I think, as we make them out, whether it's in church or in the corporate arena kind of thing, in a job. Like there's always this path. It's just a matter of whether or not people get on the right path and they stay true to that path. Things just kind of just work out.
Yeah.
If you're looking for them to work out. Wow. And then and my second question was about like with conflict. A lot of people love to run away from conflict. And it seems like you've been taught, you've been trained, you've been in this refining moment to be great at dealing with conflict. What have you learned about with people and how they react to certain things, and how do you like calm people down?
Man, I don't, if they're angry, I don't match their anger, for one. I remember I was a supervisor at UPS and years ago, and I had an employee that just did not want to work. And I asked him to do something. They didn't want to do it, and I said, look, I need you to do it. He came down the steps, got into my face, like right here, right? And he was like, what did you say? I said, I need you to take care of this box. What did you say? I'll punch you, I'll take you out right now kind of thing. And this is kind of like, I'm still younger, so I'm like kind of still have that aggressive, like that combative thing. Like, I'm like, bro, you can try. I mean, you might take me, I don't know, but we can try. See what happens kind of thing. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, I would do this right now. I would do this. I would clip them but I remember, because again, here I am trying to be this Christian kind of guy, right? I'm trying to like be an example, whatever. So then I this guy is like in my face. I picture it. I still remember this guy. And I bring him up every now and then in stories. But he's waving his hands, and he's kind of like got his hands in my face kind of thing. And I'm like this, bro, just stoned, just like. And then once he's done whatever he's doing, talking or saying something, I just say, I need you to take that box, and I need you to get it into that truck. And then he kind of does that thing where he walks away, and then he comes back, and I'm still just there. Like, he's looking for me to flinch. He's looking for, in those cases, those people are looking for you to react, almost to snoop down to their level kind of thing. I didn't budge. He did what I asked him to do. And afterwards, I went to my manager and told him, hey, just FYI, this is what happened. Not sure what's going to happen tomorrow, but anyways, this is what happened. Man, I tell you what, bro. The next day, that guy, he brought me Subway cookies. From that point on, I had probably like, I don't know, let's just say like I had 10 people on my line, my belt, right, with these trucks. And we were loaders. That point on, he was my strongest and best team member. He would bring cookies. If he was going to get us some lunch, he would bring me a sandwich kind of thing. I didn't ask for it. I thanked him for it kind of thing. He didn't need to do that. But he needed that to happen. Whatever that was for him, maybe he was going through something, right? And he needed that sense of stability, structure, leadership, whatever it was. That's something to me that when you talk about conflict resolution, I would always encourage people is don't match the energy of the person who's bringing the conflict, right? And it goes for anything. Like growing up, like, man, I tell you, like as a kid, we were always in trouble and stuff. There was always fighting going on and things like that. And like my parents were very, very hard on like, don't you ever start a fight. Finish it if you have to, right? Like my kids went to the school in Kentucky. I forgot what state we're in right now, actually, but in Kentucky. And I won't say the name of it, but they had this thing, and Emery was there at a kindergarten or first grade level kind of thing, and they would tell the students and the parents, like, now, okay, if you're getting bullied, like, just say no, thank you. Or like if you're getting pushed around or like beat up, just say no, thank you. And I'm looking around at other parents, and I'm like, and they're all nodding their heads. I'm like, man, there's something wrong with my heart, my spirit. I was like, there's just no way. If you're hitting me, I'm not just gonna say no, thank you. And then like Gina, my wife, she would be like, she would try to practice stuff at home, man. Yeah. She'd be like, you know, if Jeremy was messing around or Bella and him get into a fight or something, and we're out and about, Gina, you know, you're trying to reinforce the policies or whatever. She'd be like, just say no, thank you. I'm like, bro, I was like, you know, I think one day Gina may tell the story better or something. I think one day I was like, you know what, forget this. Yeah. We're done with no thank you. Emery, if you have a kid kicking you in the corner and you're saying no thank you, I'm going to kick you with the kid. You need to get up and defend yourself, bro. Because, like, that's just weird to me, kind of. It's just like, I get it. You want to be, you know. But my parents were like, look, if you're getting bullied, tell them stop, knock it off. Let the teacher know. Follow the process. But at one point, it's just like, either you show up, meaning you defend yourself, or, like, I'm going to show up. Yeah. And I try to do that, like, growing up as a kid. Like, we would get into fights. I remember one time, man, I don't want to get off a tangent, but y'all got me thinking now. Good. Like, I was in the east side of Milwaukee, like Houghton and North Avenue is where I grew up. There was always trouble. And then I was at school, and these kids were, like, messing with me kind of thing. So my cousins were there. Like, we were always getting into little things. And one time it was a bigger guy. And his group was bigger than my group kind of thing. So we were just kind of mouthing it kind of thing. And I got home, my dad and my cousin were in the front yard, and I told them what happened. And then my cousin, he was, and my dad, they were like, nah, man, that ain't gonna happen, bro. So tomorrow, tell you what, we're both gonna show up there after school, and we're gonna get this kid, kind of thing, right? It's my dad and my cousin.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, yeah, bet, let's do this. So I'm like, I get jacked up in my room that night, ready to go. And I'm like, practice shadow boxing or wrestling. I get my younger brothers, I'm beating them up just to kind of get like something going. Bro, I show up the next morning talking junk all day to this kid. And he's like, all right, kind of thing. And then like his guys are around him kind of thing. I'm like, dude, wait till after school. Bro, my dad and cousin didn't show up, bro. I was like,
oh my goodness.
So I was trying to stay in the building as long as possible, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, I can't. I gotta go outside. I gotta leave. And then I think like my cousins, they were female cousins, and then. But no, bro, these female cousins, man, especially in the Latina community, bro, they're rough. So we're like, all right, let's just go. So we're going, bro. And these guys, there's no female cousins out there. They're like, bro, they're following me home. And I'm walking in front of them, and I hear them talking. I remember like it was yesterday, bro. They're like yelling at me, cussing at me, and like trying to get to me, and my girl cousins behind me, and I would periodically try to like reach back, like I'm grabbing them, and then I get home, bro. It goes right around the block, like their school, a block, and then my house. So this whole way home, bro, these guys are like yelling and cussing. Every now and then I try to act hard, kind of thing, and like I'm reaching back, like, don't let me get a hold of you, man, don't let me get a hold of you. And then now we get to a more populated area, and like I go my way, and then they go. I was mad at my cousin. I don't think I talked to my cousin again. My dad, I didn't want to talk to him anymore, but you know, whatever. But man, I remember that like it was yesterday. I don't even know how we got into conflict resolution stuff, but you don't resolve conflict with violence. But at the same time, you don't match their energy, and that whole no thank you thing was weird. You defend yourself, but don't start fights. Just say no. I don't even know how I got into the subject.
No, this is exactly it. One thing that has stood out to me like throughout this whole thing is of the fact of it seems as something as though like communication and people skills and like networking and talking with others and how to work with people. And it's a little pin because I'm going to tie it back to something else, but I wanted a quick talk about your ministry, your ministry, career, life, goals, stuff like, because you're saying you were starting to get into church and now you're like, spoiler for everyone, a pastor. What was kind of like, what led you to that besides like God? And what was like kind of like the route and like building you up and preparing you for where you at now?
The route, so again, starting out earlier on as a teenager kind of thing with, they were home friendship groups, cells, connecting with, we had a youth choir kind of thing, Youth on a Mission, and it just kind of feeling like that there's that need to connect with God and the things of God. And you try things, right? I tried like singing. I was horrible. I'm not a singer kind of thing, right? I tried maybe a couple other things, and it's like I didn't really care for it. But then I think I just every now and then somebody say, "Hey, can you speak on this topic or whatever?" And at that peer group when I was younger, you know, we all respected each other, and like I was able to connect with people differently than others and so forth, which was helpful. But then I think as time went on, I started to really feel like, man, there's a lot of people like me who were struggling in life and maybe family life and personal life or getting in trouble and coming to know this God thing, right? It's like, man, they don't have to struggle that much. Like, how can I help? So I think eventually I just started to think along the lines of, man, I just want to be a helper to people and just serve people kind of thing. And I never really, whether it was Wisconsin or Kentucky kind of thing, I always made sure, and even in the professional arena as well, I never really looked for a position or a title kind of thing. You know, if God wanted something to happen, then somebody would approach me and ask me, like in when we were youth pastors, right? It's we were involved with the youth. We were willing to help with the youth. We were willing to engage. But Gina and I always felt like, well, somebody had to speak to or God had to speak to somebody to say, hey, maybe they would be good youth pastors or something like that. And there's times I think where you think to yourself, like, man, I think I could probably do a good job in that area, or I have some experience there, or I would do it this way, and or you would give advice, and sure enough, if they would have followed your advice, these things would have happened. But I always try to protect myself from chasing a role or needing a title. To your point right now, you know, yeah, I'm in like an associate pastor kind of role, and I would do everything that I'm doing today in ministry without that title. I don't need that title to be validated or you know, anything like that. You get to the point in ministry and in your walk with God where it's just like, man, I'm here just to serve at the end of the day in any capacity. And if my pastor feels like, you know what, Andres, I think I want to use you over here, great. I'm hoping you prayed about it, like you're good kind of thing, right? But yeah, I'll do that kind of thing, or you know, try this or try that. You know, so it's always really trying to figure out, you know, what God has for you, but trying to protect yourself from formulating your own opinion of what you think God has for you. Because God might call me to be a pastor one day, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, I would do this, I would do that. That sounds exciting, and I know God's calling me for that. But just because God gave me that idea, that vision, that thought, doesn't mean it's for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? We knew that we would be back home in Wisconsin and serving in a ministry capacity. I know between like myself, my wife, and your dad, and your mom, man, for like 15 years, it had to be, we were trying to kind of like connect again and partner in ministry type of thing. And man, we just felt it like heavy, like, man, this is God's plan. Man, 15 years, the doors would close kind of thing. And Gina and I, we had to learn how to be patient and just serve where we were at. Wow. Whether we enjoyed it every day or not, no one even cares. Because even when you're in that space and you're serving and you're frustrated because, man, I know God gave me that idea. I know God gave me that vision. I know God called me to be a pastor kind of thing. But you know what? Unless I learn how to just thrive and grow where I'm at, I think we miss the boat sometimes. We have this idea of vision from God, and we want to jump to that. But God's like, no, this is where I'm taking you. But you got all this other stuff to clean up. You always trying to fight people or tell people your dad's going to go beat them up kind of thing. Like, you got to work out all those things first. And we're going to work through those, and we're going to work through those points of frustration. And you know what? I want you to think less about where I have you and think about more about where I need you and how to serve people. Because when the time is right, that's where you'll be. And I want you to, I'm giving you a glance or a glimpse of this now, not the full picture, but a glimpse of it now to let you know, start training. Yeah. Start preparing, start getting ready, because this pastor ministry kind of thing, it's not easy, right? It's sleepless nights. It's 24 hours, 24/7 kind of thing. It's not having answers all the time, frustration, people, you know, getting on your case about this and that. And you're like, well, no, man, I think God gave me. You start to doubt yourself. Like it's not for everybody. And even if God had given you this, it's like, yes, I called you to do this, but I'm not going to tell you if it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years from now, but it will happen. I just need you to go. Trust me.
Yeah. Wow.
That is very beautiful.
Yeah. And then you get people kind of sometimes that kind of throw you off track, right? Like you feel like you're moving and like you feel like God gave you something, and then like they laugh at you. Like this past Sunday, I was speaking at church, and I had this group of young people kind of come up in the front of the church and help me with an illustration. I felt this was a Spirit of God kind of thing, and then one of these guys starts laughing. Like, I'm like, man, dude, the Spirit of God moving. I thought the Spirit of God, maybe it wasn't. Got scripture moving, and I'm trying to bring this analogy about how I'd like to get out of God's way and just connect with God. And I look over, and I'm like, my spirit's moving, my heart's pounding. I'm like, man, this is it, this is it. And I look over, and then one of these young guys just starts laughing, and I'm like, man, dude, maybe this wasn't God. Maybe I'm a failure, and just like...
Or maybe the other young guy was making one of the other guys
I don't know,
laugh.
like, what would happen in those cases? Like, why would somebody laugh when someone's trying to pour their heart out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the person that made the other friend, the guy, laugh, that is the problem.
What's the problem?
So you're saying that there's a guy.
There's a
laughing.
guy, right? He starts laughing at me, and then
guy.
And then, like, my
The other guy
morale
that
just
was-
kind of gets, like, shot.
The other guy that made him laugh. That's the problem, maybe.
Well, you're good with conflict. What do you think it was? Is it the guy who's doing the conflict?
Like,
I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's kind of like the whole conflict. Like, sometimes you got to put your poker face on, right? Like, I'm upset kind of thing.
Like,
and it's like why is
you-
this dude laughing? Like, then I'm thinking, like, man, is he laughing at me? And I already don't like speaking, right? So I'm like,
I think what happened was, like, I think if the one guy knows that the other guy can laugh easy, he shouldn't make the other guy laugh when they're doing such a special... I mean, I don't know these guys and these people that
they're
we're
good
talking
guys.
about, but
I mean, I would
I'm
vouch
just
for
saying,
them.
I bet.
But I just don't know.
Wait, why are
like-
you saying good guys? I think one was laughing at you. The other one wasn't.
Well, yeah, but
I don't think,
he's saying-
I don't think he
he's-
was laughing
he's
at him.
Yeah, like, I didn't know. Like, one guy was laughing. Another guy...
Did
I
we
couldn't
even
really-
know if he was laughing? Like, did anyone even think that?
He was crying, laughing, I think.
I think people thought he was emotional from it.
A word on the street was like, he's laughing.
Actually,
and then-
he's heard that a couple times.
And then visually, I thought to myself, and it kind of threw me off track. But you know what? That stuff's good, though. You know, God's going to kind of use
Yeah.
people like that to kind of, like, tear you down.
Yeah. And now we know we can't use that guy for any...
Well, no, I
illustrations
think what will
if
happen
there's
is
another guy.
I may do it again. Because I think it's a good opportunity to try to kind of test some things out, right?
Are you going to use the
so-
same two guys?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
So
What are the illustration that I can use? Like, there's this thing with, like, golf carts. Like, if I were, like, to kind of put
That's a good
these
one.
two guys in a golf cart.
that's a good one.
Like, I remember one time I was in the golf cart.
I feel like it's like that, yeah.
Yeah. But I would use it as an illustration because, like, my case, I had a situation. I recently fell out of a golf cart. Rolling down the hill.
You
kinda
see him
thing.
laughing?
He's sneezing or coughing. And I'm rolling down the hill, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna die, kind of thing. But I do feel like there was a hand on my back because I was with somebody in the cart.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got pushed out the cart,
Push you out of the cart.
right? And I think that could be an illustration that
I
we
feel
may...
like the guy that made the other guy laugh was the guy pushing the other guy out of the car. Like, I feel like, for example, if I was the guy that was laughing on Sunday, I feel like I was you who got pushed out of the cart.
Oh, so you agree I got pushed out of the cart?
I'm just saying if you, that was the
I,
case.
I hear you, man. I think there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
You know.
So take a side note from that. The pin that I had here, communication. I think one thing you do very, very well is you take, like, you have these goals, you have these challenges that you can overcome, you have things to train for, you have a great work ethic, and a thing that you do, you make it very simplistic. You say, it's very straightforward. Yeah. Give the time, give the effort, give the energy, put in the time for training, put in the effort for wanting to achieve goals, and also having, like, a dream and something bigger than yourself and pursuing it. You do a great job making it simplistic. And knowing you and like having conversations, it sounds like it's something that you consistently and constantly do. So I was going to ask you, is there anything that you're pursuing now in life that you maybe would like to share?
Yeah. So, you know, to those points and just through experiences and with family dynamics changing and so forth, my wife and I have started to pursue a couple years ago, like doing our own thing. And it became more real, I would say, over the last couple of months. So we are pursuing something where, one of the frustrations that I know I have, I'll say you have, without even asking you, but just people around, is that this lack of common sense when it comes to things like customer service, customer experience, employee experience. Like, people want to enjoy their job, but there's something within that environment that is causing them sometimes not to enjoy their job. Sometimes they're just lazy people.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not ignore that. But you've been at restaurants, you've been at places, you've called help desk, and you're like, I remember one time I called the help desk for something out on a personal level, and this was years ago. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you everything you're doing wrong. Like, because I come from that world of customer experience, and I hire people to do this. I'm like, in a roundabout way, I'm like, you're horrible. You should just go quit right now because you're just terrible what you're doing. And I think people want to get back to enjoying good customer experience. Having people that, if I'm going to go buy a service from you or a product from you, or if I need your help for something, to feel like you're not talking down to me, to feel like I have your attention. Because in my world, and not my world, just from a business perspective, I heard it said years ago, sales sells the first, but service sells the rest. If we get to the point where we go to places and there's a good customer experience in a church, if members or visitors or guests come to a church building and there's a good guest experience, I'm more inclined to come back because people made me feel valued. People made me feel heard. People made me feel welcomed. The worship team, they might mess up on a song. The guest isn't going to remember that. The preacher might mess up on a few things. They're not going to know, but they will remember the people who were members of that business or that church, how they made me feel. Right? So the idea behind this adventure that our family's trying to embark on, not trying to, but we are, has to do with bringing that sense of visibility and awareness to businesses, to say that when you make somebody feel welcome, and if you know how to engage with them, if you know how to kind of resolve conflict between an employee amongst themselves, or an employee and a customer, or an employee and a manager, you can have a very, very healthy work environment, right? Similar to a church setting as well, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of people that I encounter today and over the years. I was fortunate, I feel, to have the church leadership development experience that I had prior to going into the more corporate arena. I was fortunate enough to have that want to learn more and recognize that there's areas I needed to develop as a manager or leader. And as I've hired people, I've invested in them and so forth. And these people today, a few people, names go through my mind, they're still thriving. Not because of me, but because of a partnership they and I had. Whereas, hey, I'm gonna tell it to you like it is, but I'm also going to invest in you, and you having the want to learn and develop and grow and take constructive feedback. Those are good. That's a good recipe for success. Yeah. It's always going to take two. So we're trying to really kind of move into that market where we can help companies thrive again through customer experience and organizational development, employee experience, which ultimately leads us to a path that gives us Gina and I the opportunity to maybe get more engaged in the nonprofit arena with things dealing with special needs or autism, because our youngest son is on the autism spectrum. So doing that, there's in my mind, and I shared it with a couple others, I have this 1 to like 5 to 10 year plan and vision board of where I see this adventure going, and the phases we're going to go through to get to that end goal, which obviously is a lot to kind of unpack right now, but that's kind of like where I'm at. To answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. It's so cool to see, and like that is such a big aspect in life that a lot of people are missing. I think like the idea of having good communication and helping them, and it drives all the way back to like the Bible, treat others how you want to be treated. Like that is everything. And like there was a book that I was listening to a guy talk about, and it's all about hospitality. And it sounds like very close to what you're talking about. And like there was this a star that goes out to really, really nice restaurants. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
It's like a militia star or whatever. And the star was given to this really nice restaurant in New York. And this is like a short story. A couple came, and they just realized that for their honeymoon they weren't able to go to Hawaii because plane canceled or whatever. And so the restaurant owner said, hey, come back next week or something. We'll do something nice for you. And they're like, oh, cool. Come back next week. They like ordered sand. They set up like a Hawaiian like punch bar, and like brought in like certain chairs, and they decked out this full room for that. And like that's something that, you know, is for one person, but that story now goes and carries on and carries on and carries on, and it builds a reputation for a place like that to something much greater, that we care about the people. And I think that's so cool how that's like something that you guys are pursuing, of like, let's acknowledge the people that want to enjoy their jobs. Let's acknowledge the people that are working with the people that are working with different companies that provide service. And that quote that sales get the first and then service keeps them for the rest, or I forgot exactly how it goes, but it's very true. And it's one thing that we can see is that you have a lot of ability and creativity with the way you use communication as a tool, and how it can make people grow and better people, and also work with people. And conflict management, that's such a large thing that a lot of people like have it go over their head. As a teacher, I deal with that all the time. And just hearing some of the things you're talking about, like I can take it and bring it and apply it into my life and my career. So it's so cool to hear that like that's something that you guys are pursuing.
Wow. And it's actually awesome because I got a little glimpse of what you have, and it's cool to see how you came up with this idea, and you have this full drive to get it started up, to get it complete. And I mean, if I had a company right now, I'd be like, yes, come in. Come in. What could you do?
Yeah, but we just want to thank you so much for all that stuff. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
We literally would have no one else. We would have came to your house if you said no.
Oh, really?
We would have followed you like your cousins.
Man, my cousins, they have my back.
Hey, we got your back now.
Yeah.
Hey, even if one laughs at us.
Yeah.
But seriously, thank you for coming on and sharing your thoughts, your heart, your ministry, what you're passionate about, because seriously, it's so inspiring, especially just getting down to talk to you and talking to you throughout every Sunday or whatever, had dinner with you, and you're just such a good guy. You're one of those good guys, you know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it. So are you. You guys are great.
It was a great conversation to have, especially for the people that were able to watch. I think you were able to take away something from it and learn, and then also had a great laugh. That was pretty funny, the story that you shared. But yeah.
But hey, thank you, BC Procast. That was because BC Procast episode number 51. 51. Make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Send this video to 10 people and just be like, hey, this is a good one. And comment.
That's you. Is there something they should comment down below?
Man, I have no idea.
We can comment. Who's your favorite cousin you'd get in a fight with?
Yeah. Which cousin would
like
you want?
you would fight?
You'll fight with.
Like
Sorry.
against?
No, not against.
Because
Fight
those girl
along.
cousins, I fought against each of those girl cousins.
Oh, really?
Man, they tore me up, bro. I mean, for real. Like fist fights, like brawl, like tears, like almost had to get a tetanus shot, like all kinds of stuff, bro.
Yeah, so comment down which cousin you would get a fight along with and against.
Yeah, and we definitely fueled your curiosity, especially with dealing with customers, but also growing and connecting with people, how to build up, how to get that motivation, what it takes to be successful. So thank you, Pastor Z, for saying that. Also, make sure that you pray. If you haven't, it's always good to talk to God, to, just let him know how you're doing. Also ask him how is he's doing, right? Is that a thing, Pastor Z?
Yeah, man. Make it happen. Conversation, two-way conversation, bro.
This is BC Procast episode number 51. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.